Chinese Americans are Americans of full or partial Chinese descendants. They constitute one group of overseas Chinese and also a subgroup of East Asian Americans, which is further a subgroup of Asian Americans. The history of Chinese Americans in the United States relates to the three major waves of Chinese immigration, with the first beginning in the 19th century. Chinese immigrants worked as laborers particularly on the railroad, such as the Central Pacific Railroad. They also worked as laborers in the mining of industry, and suffered racial discrimination at every level of society. While industrial employees were eager to get this new and cheap labor, the ordinary white public was stirred to anger by the presence of this yellow peril. Chinese Americans have many traditions, which a lot of them had a big influence in the United States. Food is one of them. There are many places in the United States where you can go and eat Chinese food. Chinese immigration, 1820s. The Chinese migration, as I said, is divided into three waves. I'm going to explain the first wave. It was basically the beginning of the Chinese immigration. The first Chinese people of this wave arrived in the United States around the 1820s. Subsequent immigrants that came from the 1820s up to the late 1840s were mainly men. In 1834, Feng Moi became the first female Chinese immigrant to the United States. She was brought to New York City from her home, Guangzhou, by Nathaniel and Frederick Harn, who exhibited her as the Chinese lady. The Chinese only came for the gold rush in California, but also helped build the first transcontinental railroad, worked on the southern plantation after the Civil War, and participated in setting up California's agriculture and fisheries. They were also fleeing the Taiping Rebellion that affected the region. From the outset, they were faced with the racism of the Central European population, which since the 1870s culminated in massacres and forced relocations of Chinese migrants into what became known as Chinatowns. Also, with regard to the legal situation, the Chinese were by far more badly posed in the United States than most other ethnic minorities. They had to pay special taxes. All foreign minors had to pay tax of $20 a month, were not allowed to marry white European partners, and could not acquire U.S. citizenship. It was really hard for the Chinese to get to the United States. The majority of Chinese populations were from lower class origins. The money they needed to travel was mostly borrowed from relatives, district associations, or from commercial lenders. American employers of Chinese laborers sent hiring agencies to China to pay for the voyage of those who were unable to borrow money. This credit ticket system meant that the money provided by the agencies to cover the cost of the passage was to be paid back by wages earned by the laborers later during their time in the United States. The entry of the Chinese into the United States was to begin with legal and uncomplicated, and even had a formal judicial basis in 1868, with the signing of the Burlingame Treaty between the United States and China. Also, the children of the immigrants, if they were born in the United States, they automatically will have the nationality. Push and pull factors. Some pull factors were working gold mines, take agriculture jobs, and factory work, especially in the garment industry, particularly instrumental in building railroads in American West. They went to the United States to get more skilled jobs and be more successful. Push factors. Many Chinese people suffer from discrimination. Many Western states also enacted discriminatory laws that made it difficult for Chinese immigrants to own land and find work. Some of the anti-Chinese laws were the Foreign Miners License Tax, which required a monthly payment of $3 from each foreign miner who did not desire to become a citizen. Foreign-born Chinese could not become citizens because they had been rendered ineligible to citizenship by the Naturalization Act of the 1790s, that reserved naturalized citizenship to free white persons. Also, the Chinese wanted to leave China because of Taiping rebellion that affected their religion. This one is one of the most important reasons. They also had many economic problems, poverty, the lack of education facilities for the children. How many Chinese migrated? Here is a table of the statistics of the Chinese population in the United States from 1840s to 2010. The table shows the ethnic Chinese population of the United States, including persons with mixed ethnic origin. Challenges. Traveling cost a lot of money. As the numbers of Chinese laborers increased, so did the strength of the anti-Chinese sentiment among other workers in the American economy. This finally resulted in legislation that aimed to limit future immigration of Chinese workers to the United States, that threatened to sour diplomatic relations between the United States and China. Today, many countries from the United States have many of these communities. The most popular of these communities are called Chinatown. The most popular countries that have these Chinatown communities are San Francisco, Chicago, Los Angeles, and New York City. California had the major concentration of Chinese immigrants. 31.8% of the Chinese born live in the state, followed by New York City with a population of 22.2% of Chinese born citizens.